Hi, y'all. Come with me to Little Rock, Arkansas. Let's talk about the disturbing disappearance and unsolved homicide of Abby Jane Steppach. Let's talk about how the Little Rock Police Department treated this family during the worst time of their lives. Let's discuss the corruption and cover-up. Let's go back to March 31st of 1997 when Abby Jane Steppach was born to her parents Lori Jernigan and Peter Steppach. She was raised in the suburbs of Little Rock, Arkansas. She was raised with close ties to her family. She was funny, loyal. Abby's parents would divorce when she was a child. She had an older brother named Trevor and a younger sister. She also had a stepbrother. Abby had 3 family members who were hairdressers, so it came to her naturally. She loved to try out all the new hairstyles, and she loved makeup. She worked a part-time job at the Foot Locker just to be able to buy herself the best makeup kits. She was a natural artist. Abby had been attending Lisa Academy until she transferred to Little Rock Central High School. She would have graduated in the year of 2016. That is when Abby's mother, Lori, and her stepfather, Michael Jernigan, started to see a change in Abby. She started to rebel a little, breaking curfew and things like that. That is normal teenage behavior. I don't know any teenager who just does everything their parents say. Abby was 18 years old, and she was fighting for her independence. That would eventually come at a high price and cost her her life. Abby started staying with friends, her brother Trevor, and her grandparents in the area. Abby was a loyal friend who would go to war for you. She was a beautiful young lady on the inside and out. She had a huge heart. In October of 2015, Abby went with a male friend to a classmate's home where a few of them were hanging out together. Abby had a huge selection of friends from all circles of life. Abby engaged in consensual sex, but that turned into something else, where she felt forced and also felt like she had been recorded by another classmate with their phone. Abby calls her boyfriend Eric and tells him what has happened and that she feels like she's been assaulted. Eric tells Abby to come over. He can tell she's been crying and she is upset. He helps her get in touch with family. I believe she reaches out to her stepfather, Michael Jernigan. She texts him and tells him what's happened. She asks him to go with her to authorities to report the assault. He agrees. She asks one more thing from Michael Jernigan, and that is, please do not tell my mother what has happened. Michael, Abby's stepfather, agrees. Abby stayed the night at Eric's home. That night he has a sister, and Abby slept in her bed. The next morning they got up, they had breakfast, they talked, and Abby had made arrangements to meet her stepfather and report the assault. That Saturday, we know that Abby was with her grandparents most of the day, just hanging out. We know she visited a friend. There was some pings on her phone, some Google searches, but it seems to be unclear or uncertain of her whereabouts from Saturday night to Sunday evening. They have some of her searches and can ping it, but obviously they don't know. They have some of her text messages to her classmates stating that she felt forced and that she was going to report the assault to the police. She also made 2 one-minute phone calls to local police department in Little Rock, Arkansas, and they say they have no record of those calls. On October 25th of 2015, Abby calls her brother Trevor. He had been out of town for a wedding. He asked her, "Where are you?" She says, "I'm right outside your house." He goes to check, but Abby was not there. He calls her back and he asks her, "Are you okay? Is someone with you?" Abby could not tell him if anyone was with her. She was talking clear and plain, but she did not know where she was at. She tells her brother she was messed up. Trevor, her brother, starts to cry. He hangs up and he calls his stepfather, Michael. He asks Michael, can you ping Abby's phone? Can you track her? He could not. He tried. Her location services were turned off. Trevor tries to call his sister Abby back, but this time there was no answer. That was the last time anyone would ever hear from Abby Jane Steppach again. Trevor goes to his mother's house and he busts through the door. He's been crying, right? He's upset. That's his sister. She had been staying with him, and he tells her something is wrong with Abby. He calls local authorities and he asks them, is there anything you can do? And tells them what is going on, and they put out a bolo for Abby's car. Let me just add right here that in 2019, Trevor, Abby's brother, passed away from a heart attack at the age of 35. A lot of people believe it was due to the stress of his sister's disappearance and her murder. So this family has not only lost one child, but they have lost two. Lori, Abby's mother, tries to report her as a missing person. Authorities tell her she has to wait 12 hours. We all know by now that's not real. That's not a real law. You do not have to wait 12 hours. But the family does what they're asked to do, and they wait 12 hours. They go home, they start printing out flyers of Abby and that she is missing. 12 hours later, Lori does report her as a missing person. Authorities tell her, we can only classify her as a runaway. She is 18 years old and she had moved out of your house a month ago. Abby's family during this time also searched for her up and down the roads and highways of Little Rock, Arkansas. Authorities tell Lori and the family, please do not speak with the media. All these people are hairdressers in the local community, and Lori does go to the media through some of her connections with her customers. That is when we all learn of Abby's disappearance. 5 days later, Peter Steppach, Abby's father, gets a phone call. The police have his car. The car is actually registered in Abby's name and her father's name. So if there was really a bolo out on the car, don't you think it would have come back as a missing person when they ran that plate? The car is backed into a parking lot at Shamond Park. It is a private park in West Little Rock, Arkansas. There's a towel hanging from one of the doors. The key is in the ignition turned on. The car has ran completely out of gas. Abby's wallet, her money, her contacts she had to have to see are all in the car. Her expensive makeup is strode throughout the car. That was not like Abby. She loved her makeup and she had paid a lot of money for it. They do search around the park, but there is no Abby. Shamond Park is a private park on the west side of Little Rock, an affluential part of town. They have a playground for kids, a splash pad, a pool, and it was still under construction at the time of Abby's disappearance. Abby would go there to clear her mind and hang out with friends. A neighbor had called and reported an abandoned car at the park. She says she called several times. The area also has a security patrol. In the neighborhood, they also patrol the park. His name is Guy Hooper. He also says he reported the abandoned car. The witnesses to the car both say authorities did not come out until they told them, yes, you are. How does that work? You get called to a situation, but you only have to respond if you feel like you want to. I don't think that's how being an officer works. So there's something wrong with this story. Either the witnesses are not telling the truth, or the Little Rock Police Department needs to all be fired and the mayor needs to be gone. There's some things seriously wrong in that area. Lori goes to local authorities and asks, can you pull the footage from Walmart? It was really close to the park. And the officer tells her no, that would be too much footage to go through. Lori says, that's okay, I'll go through the footage. The officer still tells her no, we're not pulling the security footage from Walmart. Officers do ping Abby's phone and they tell Lori the location of her phone, and they go to a field about an hour from home in the middle of nowhere. They were not even pinging the right phone. They pinged someone else's phone number. When they finally do ping the right phone, sure enough, Abby's phone pings at that park, her last known location. Authorities start working off of a timeline that does not match the phone records timeline. Somehow they're working off of a timeline that is not correct. They start to zone in on this family, Lori and her husband, Michael Jernigan, Abby's stepfather. They interrogate these people. They interrogated Michael for over 3 hours and basically accused him of harming his stepdaughter. They would text Lori in the middle of the night saying, "Why are you protecting the man who harmed your own child?" This family was put through pure hell at one of the worst times in their lives. Lori does file a report on these officers, and she gets an email back stating there's no proof of evidence of them being rude to your family. Lori had text messages, she had a witness that went with her, and she had a private investigator that she had hired. Peter Steppach, Abby's father, hired a private investigator out of California. He focuses in on sex trafficking and gangs. Lori takes this to local authorities, and they tell her sex trafficking is not a real thing. They are just prostitutes who are lying. But actually, 2 women were rescued in a sex trafficking event. They were taken from Little Rock, Arkansas in a U-Haul to Louisiana. They were rescued and they were forced into sex trafficking. She also asked about gangs in the area. Little Rock police officers tell her there are no gangs in Little Rock, Arkansas. Y'all all know that HBO put out a documentary called Gang Banging in Little Rock. That documentary was in 2017, and Abby went missing in 2015. So gangs were in Little Rock, Arkansas, and they are still there to this day. I just can't get over how this officer spoke to Lori and how he treated her and just blew off everything she ever said, that sex trafficking, gangs. I mean, does he think she's a fool? What is wrong with him? Lori also hires her private investigator. His name is Monty Vickers. He used to be a Little Rock police officer, and he had retired. At first, he did not want to get involved in an active investigation, but when he saw the things and how they were treating this family, that's when he started working the case. He finds that there was security in the park. He tracks Guy Hooper down and he interviews him. He finds out that Guy Hooper actually had security footage, but by the time he tracks him down, Guy Hooper says his computer crashed and he had to get a new computer and he had lost all the footage. He also states that he had saw Abby there before and he had actually ran her off from the premises. Guy also states that he had called and reported the abandoned car, but when Catherine Townsend comes on the scene and asks for the FOIA request to gain information about the case, she finds out that Guy Cooper did not actually report the car. A neighbor did. Some really question this security guard's answers. They say it doesn't match up, but local authorities say they have ruled him out. Lori gets a tip from an ambulance driver in Memphis, and she takes it to local authorities. Guess what they tell Lori? We do not work weekends. Lori also asked them to go through Abby's social media accounts, and of course, the police tell her they don't know how to do that, and they don't have the right people to do that. So Lori actually goes out and hires an IT expert to go through all Abby's website. They find out that someone has actually been accessing Abby's websites, her social media accounts. They call local police and tell them, we need to change her password for just a minute. The local police flip out. They tell Lori that she is interfering in an open investigation and that she will not be tolerated any longer. If she keeps on, she is going to be arrested. They tell her they are done working with her. They will no longer talk to her or communicate with her about the case. Can y'all imagine that? That's your own daughter missing, and everything you go to them and tell them about sex trafficking, and they act like you're just some dumb person. Then they tell you they can't get into the accounts, and when you hire someone to do it out of your own pocket, they tell you they won't work with you any longer. Can y'all imagine what they have put this family through and why? I would love to hear from the Little Rock police what is actually going on here, because this sounds horrendous. A few days after Abby's car was found, a lady named Margie Foley and her daughter Kaylee go to the park where Abby's car was found. They had just left a meeting with Detective Williams over Abby's disappearance. They are walking the park. Kaylee and Abby, they were really close friends. Miss Foley tells Kaylee, go back to the car. She smelled decomposition coming from the drain pipe. She did not want her daughter to witness that foul odor. Miss Foley calls Detective Williams, but he does not answer the phone, and he does not call her back. She calls Pulaski County Police. They transfer her to 911 in Little Rock, Arkansas, and I believe it actually took her 3 times calling to speak with anyone. When someone finally arrives on the scene 1 hour later, they tell her, it is not Abby. She is not in that drain. We have searched this park with dogs. They lift the lid, shine their flashlights inside, and tell her it must be an animal in there. I can't help but wonder how many people did call and report a foul odor. With this police department, we will never know, but that drain was put in place to help the water drain from that area. The drain was very close to where Abby's car had been found. 8 months later, the case is finally handed over to a cold case detectives team, and Tommy Hudson comes on the scene to work the case. He quickly rules out the family members through phone pings. He starts working the correct timeline. He says he's found a lot of falsified documents, and basically nothing had been done with Abby's phone. Some of those officers were demoted and moved around. They should have been fired. Abby was then put on the missing and endangered children's list due to a law called Susan's Law, where you can be 18, 19, and 20 years old. That opened up a lot more resources that would help in the search for Abby. Tommy Hudson also lets the FBI take part on this case now. A 3-day search of the park is done. The park was searched several times by different groups. In 2018, Tommy Hudson says he is going back to the park on a hunch, and he is going to have the city workers run a camera down the pipe so they can assist. And sure enough, there was blockage in the pipe, 70 feet on one side and over 100 feet on the other side. That is how far into the pipe the remains of Abby Jane Steppach were. By this time, it's 2018, and there was nothing but skeletal remains left. Lori loves Tommy Hudson, this detective. She has even listed a thank you to him and a few other officers who were working the case. But there are a couple of witnesses who come out and told they were working for a plumbing company and they were called out to the park due to water not draining. This had been a problem for several months, and different companies had been called out to fix the water draining in the park. Only these workers tell these people, we cannot fix this. There's some kind of blockage, and you need to run a camera down that pipe. So that's what they do. So I don't know if Tommy just decided to go out there on a hunch at the same time that the city was coming to also run a camera down the pipe. This same man who was working on the water not draining also says he was there when they dug this pipe up, and he saw police officers take a wallet from the pipe and place it in an evidence bag. Whose wallet was that? Because we know Abby's wallet was in her car. Tommy Hudson says that Abby's case is an undetermined homicide and that there are people of interest, but he either retired or moved on to a different department in Little Rock, Arkansas, and a new detective come on the case, and he told Lori there is nothing else to investigate in this case. Your daughter did this to herself. She crawled into that pipe by herself. There is an investigative journalist who comes on the scene. She is also a private investigator named Catherine Townsend. She is a native of Pine Bluff, Arkansas. She has a podcast called Hell and Gone. On episode 4, she does Abby's case on there. She has a lot of good information on her podcast. She interviews the people. She knocks on doors. She's on the Dr. Phil show. She actually goes to the park and goes into the drain pipe. All of this is filmed on the Dr. Phil show. You should really go and check it out. You will see how the steps are, how you have to crawl down there, and how little the pipe actually is. Her conclusion is there is no way Abby put herself in that pipe. There is another really good podcast called Steppach in Shalmont Park. She also has witnesses come forward on there. She also has a lot of good information and interviews on there. Please go check them both out. They're really good. So let's talk about some of the theories of what happened to Abby. I don't believe Abby went into that pipe willingly. Her family and friends do not believe that she went into that pipe willingly. My only other yes to that would be if she was trying to get away from someone and was trying to crawl through that pipe to the other side, maybe to escape. Her boyfriend Eric thinks she might have OD'd on something, and whoever was with her got scared and hit her in that pipe. Let's talk about that for a moment, because how are you going to carry someone down to that hole? I'm going to show you a picture of that manhole and the pipe. I don't think it would be possible unless there were two people and you threw her down there and then placed her in the pipe. I just don't see how. Was she there the whole time, or did someone place her there later on? Did the cadaver dogs really miss her being in that pipe? Another theory is that the men she accused of the assault, and she texted them and told them she was going to authorities, right? There is a rumor that one of those classmates of hers, one of their family members, is actually a Little Rock police officer. So that is why their phones were never gone through. They've never been given a lie detector test. They haven't pinged their phones. They have done nothing to any of these young men accused of this assault. They have never even been interviewed by anyone else, and no one knows their names besides Abby and her family. It has never been made public. The new detective tells Lori there is nothing else to investigate. Your daughter crawled into that pipe by herself. But they also won't close Abby's case, because then they would have to release all those documents. So they are saying technically it's still an open case, but they are no longer investigating the case. Abby Steppach went missing in October of 2015. She was found in that pipe in 2018. Here we are today, June 26th of 2023, and Abby's murder is still unsolved. And Little Rock police are still holding those records and documents stating it's an open investigation. I really don't believe this is legal. And if I was Abby's parents, I would definitely lawyer up and fight this. Abby's family has a tip line. It is 678-632-6165, or you can call 501-371-4605. Abby's sister has a petition on change.org. You can go there and sign that petition, and let's try and get Abby's case moving again. Her mom has a Facebook account. If you don't want to talk to police, you can send her a message anonymously. There's also Catherine Townsend, and also the Steppach at Shalmont Park. You can message her. Abby was only 18 years old when her life was just beginning, that was taken from her and her family. Her parents have not just lost one child, but they have lost two. Please, if you know something, anything, please reach out to someone. Y'all stay safe out there, and thank you for listening.